like when we just thought,
Yeah, no.
carry a banner sideways.
I just do. Yeah. I teach you.
We live in a world where consumerism has become our culture, and we're dying because of it. Most people don't know that we have 12 years left to change things because we grew up with whispers and notions of global warming as something that will only affect our great-great-great-grandchildren. But we need to wake up because we are those children. We're out of time. We need to be learning about climate breakdown in school in the context of the emergency that it is. So many schools don't even teach about it, and those that do don't do it in the way that we need them to. My school teaches the pros and cons of global warming. An objective view that will be the death of us. I sat in class and learned that maybe it's not so bad because we'll have warmer summers. Yes, 12 warmer summers before climate change is completely irreversible, and we might as well be writing our epitaphs. Schools that simply brush upon climate breakdown contribute to this abstract notion that most people have of it. So please, we need a system change to instigate a cultural one. We need to know about the future that is coming, and we need to know so that we can make the choice to change it. I'd also like to thank all the teachers that are here and every teacher that supports this movement for their solidarity. My biology teacher and history teachers are really great when it comes to climate change, but they can't fight a curriculum and a culture that is so difficult to work around. So please help them and teach us before it's too late.
My life researching and acting in solidarity with people who engaged in movements there, demanding democracy, demanding human rights, demanding social justice, and now increasingly facing also the effects of climate change and of global heating. We should not forget that the people who profit from the burning of oil and the burning of fossil fuels, which is threatening all our futures, are also those who are presiding over authoritarian, dictatorial regimes propped up by our own government and armed to the teeth by our own government and governments of the US and across Europe. This also has to change. I'm here as well because I'm an anti-racist activist. I'm involved with mobilising in solidarity with refugees. And again, although it's quite true that we all face, whatever region of the world we come from, we all face a common threat. Actually, the people who will bear the brunt of this first are people who are in developing countries, people who are the poorest, people who are the most vulnerable. That our government is building walls and barriers to keep them out. We have to say refugees are welcome here, and we will mobilise in solidarity with them. In the streets, what you learn through organising, that is the education that we want to impart. As an educator, as an academic, I'm also an activist, and I'm also fighting for a broader definition of education, an education that is part of the liberation of the oppressed by the oppressed, that is part of building a future for everyone through collective action from below and through system change that is driven from below and not handed down from the top, because I do not believe we can rely on the people in power now to do it for us. We have to change them if they will not listen to us. And I think after last week's climate strikes that they should know that a younger generation, the generation of my children, and the younger than that, are coming to change them if they will not listen. Thank you.
And I know from the bravery of the people who came out of school last Friday that young people can take it, because they're so much braver than so many adults. And they're so much less into conformity than so many of us adults. And it's the conformity that we learn in school that leads to the denial of adults. And we are the adults that they're not bad people, they're not climate change deniers, they're not like Donald Trump, but they're soft deniers, they're deniers through action. Their actions are a denial of the reality. And what we need to do as educators, and what young people need to do, is to learn a new way of learning that breaks out of conformity and that doesn't accept the conformist message that your role in life is to make some money, get into debt, buy a house, go on holiday, and then die when you're old and maybe happy, maybe not. That's no kind of life anyway. But even if it was, it's not going to happen because that future is not there. So an education that sets you up for that trajectory is a waste of time. So what education needs to do is to teach people the truth, to empower them to face it. We need to face the truth and act like it's real. This is such a simple message, and it's not difficult. So the Department for Education and the rest of the government need to accept this challenge. And if they won't take responsibility, we will. We will rise up, and we will keep doing what we need to do to make them change their policies. And we will keep doing what young people need to empower them for the future, because it's their future and it's our job. We need to make them braver than we are. So let's do it. Let's have a revolution. Thank you.
Teach the truth! 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 Teach the truth!
I think, no pun intended, I think today and what happened last week's demonstrate that the tide is turning on this issue. And I particularly want to congratulate Tim and others who've organised today. Can we give them a big round of applause for giving us the opportunity to be here? I am a national executive member for the National Education Union. We have 450,000 people like Tim, teachers and support staff in schools around the country. And I want to tell you that the National Education Union is watching and we are listening to you. We will be debating climate change at our conference in April. We will be debating it, what's happening at the moment, at our executive next week. And I think it's remarkable what's happened in the last week. Whilst politicians and the media are obsessed with who's going to vote which way in Parliament, or who's in which political party, or who's left which political party, or what shade of blue they're wearing, young people have said, hang on a minute, there's a world outside of Parliament and it's burning and you have to listen to us and you have to take notice. It's a generation who haven't got a vote, and I commend everyone who's taking part in this campaign to make sure that their voice is heard and to engage in the political process. You haven't got a vote yet, but it's your future that we're talking about, and you have to make the noise and make sure that you're getting heard. Article 12 of the Paris Agreement, one of the reasons we're here today. Article 12 of the Paris Agreement says that every government has a duty to educate its people about climate change and to educate them about what we can do to address the crisis. Put your hand up if you think this government is meeting that duty to educate us about climate change, to make sure we're learning about it in school. Put your hand up if you think that's happening. No. That's sort of a big no, isn't it? Shout no if you think it isn't happening. No! Okay, they might have heard you up there.
Teaching in schools, in particular, the question of climate change. And it's not just climate change that's been squeezed out of the curriculum, it's all of those subjects that really matter in terms of the world we live in, art and music and drama, and everything that's been squeezed into this particularly narrow exam-based curriculum. I also want to salute the students who were taking action on strike last week here in the UK and globally around the world. They are the most huge, massive inspiration to us all.
And on Friday, we set up a massive roadblock. Traffic was stopped for hours. It was amazing. And I was actually arrested on Friday. Luckily, no charges were pressed, but I think that just shows us we stopped traffic in one of the busiest roads in London for hours, us, students, and that just shows us we can really do anything if we put our minds to it. They're not bothered about what's going on, but we are. So we can change their minds, and we can change our futures. Shame on them! Shame on them! Because if we know more about it, and we're students, and there are these tiny little kids here today who know more about it than them, then how good of a government really are they? They're rubbish, that's what they are. So we need to rise up, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to rise up against them. Thank you.